It's great to be here. Thanks very much. To be honest, I thought it was a Peaky Blinders audition, but fortunately, I'm also the author of a book called How People Learn, which introduces the first kind of general theory of learning. So in the next 4 minutes, or whatever it is, I'm going to explain how you and every other creature on the planet learns, but not machines, because they don't learn in the same way. But before I do that, I'd like to ask you all to do something for me, if you don't mind, which is to stand up and using your hands, show me how much sleep did you get last night? So if you got a lot of sleep last night, kind of out here, you've got just a little bit of sleep back here, yeah? Yeah, so how much sleep did you get? Fantastic, did you get a picture of that? And standing ovation for my session, post to Twitter, and we're done. Seriously, so I will talk about how we learn, but I've just realized that something has gone horribly wrong. Does anybody know what has gone horribly wrong already? No? You should do. You recognize this format. This is like a lecture format, right? We're all subjected to decades of this, and you know how this format works. The way this format works is I've got a whole bunch of stuff up here that I'm going to talk about that I care deeply about. Probably none of you care very much about it, or you care very little about it. I don't know. I haven't taken the time to ask you. You're just kind of students in the class. I'm going to talk about my stuff. I might talk about 100 things. This is what a lecture's like, right? I've got 100 things to say. How many things on average might you remember if I talk about 100 things? Any guesses? 3, 10? When you come away from this session, somebody says, how many facts can you remember from that evening you spent 3 hours? How many do you think you'd remember? 5? 1? 5? Maybe, yeah. So here's the reality. Unless I do something really bizarre and peculiar, like for no particular reason, run over here, produce a bag of giant marshmallows and start lobbing them in a slightly dramatic and possibly disturbing way at people around the room. Yep, heads up. Good hands. Anybody else? Marshmallow. Yep, one over there. Good. Oh yeah, marshmallows. They are. I've just washed my hands. They are very good, and they are good. So yeah, I can testify. Anybody else want a marshmallow? Here we are. So yes, I know I'm burning my time throwing marshmallows around the room. I'd much rather be doing that. Yes, whatever the hell, they're great. But you know, oh my God, yeah. So, no, I've got to get extra time to throw marshmallows. But look, I'm prepared to bet that years from now, somebody says to you, "Do you remember that session you went to in Huckletrees and the thingamy? People talked about HR." No recollection. You know, it's the one where the weird guy threw marshmallows around the room. Oh yes, I remember that. That will be the thing that you remember. But if I don't do that, and you each remember 1 or 2 or 3 things, here's the interesting thing. They'll all be different. You'll all remember different things from the various speakers who've spoken. What things will you tend to remember? What things will you personally remember from this session? So I'm not asking you which particular things. I'm just saying what kinds of things. Things that
you're emotive about.
Yeah, well, yes, things that you care about.
Or things that are related to your current situation.
Things that are relevant to you, related to you, you care about. Things that sometimes people say resonate. And that's the interesting thing about learning, that all our learning is governed by our cares. We remember the things that matter to us. So if you sit through a lecture, none of it matters to you, and you come home from school and your parents say, "How was that?" You say, "Boring." That means you didn't care about any of it. But if you're somebody who cares about air conditioning, you come away from this room and you say, "You know what, there's a really interesting air conditioning unit." Or if somebody cares about pitiful plants and the condition of them, you might remember these sorry-looking bunch of plants. Or if you're somebody who cares about furniture, that might leave an impression on you. So our learning is governed by our cares. And the interesting thing is that learning and education have ended up being 2 things that are completely different. So, I'm holding it upside down probably. Oh yeah. So learning is something that all creatures do. Dogs do, cats do, rats do, human beings do. It's a natural process. You don't see dogs and rats and cats sitting in rows watching a PowerPoint presentation. and frankly, until a few hundred years ago, we didn't. The whole education thing is a made-up thing. It was made up to stop small children getting trapped in machinery. We thought, well, we've got them all together in a room. We'll teach them to sit down, sort of shut up, and do as they're told. And that's actually a good thing to learn from school, because that's what you're going to have to do in business. Except not every business needs people who are just going to kind of sit still, shut up, and do what they're told. How many people learned algebra at school at some point? Most of us. How many people can still remember how to solve an algebraic equation? Oh wow, there's a couple. It's a grossly inefficient process. The vast majority of stuff at school we didn't care about, and it's just lost. So, learning is natural. Education is some weird ritual that we've invented in kind of Western countries, completely unnecessary. It's just a byproduct of the industrial era. In fact, it gets in the way of learning. Learning is all about our reactions to things, and that's what stays with us. Education is all about trying to force people to memorize facts so they can pass a test, so they can get a job. But that whole system's falling apart because businesses are starting to, they've twigged that it's a bit of a ruse, actually. You're not a better performer just because you pass some test. You're probably more compliant, but will you actually perform better? No. So a whole bunch of organizations, including some consulting organizations, some high-tech organizations, have stopped looking at people's qualifications when they apply. Task-led versus topic-led. A lot of your learning in the workplace will be led by the stuff you have to do, not by the topics. What do we do in education? Come up with a list of topics. Completely the wrong thing to do. Think about the stuff people are having to do and help them with that stuff, or give them challenges. A lot of what we learn is driven by the challenges that we face. So how does learning really work? So this is a model that I introduced some time ago and talk about in the book. We don't actually remember any of the experiences that happen to us, incredible as that may sound. All that we remember are the reactions to what happens to us. So as we move around the world, everybody knows our neurons are firing and rewiring, but we're not storing sights, we're not storing sounds, not even storing semantics, because our memory is far too unreliable for any of those things to be true. We're storing our reactions to things, and we use those reactions to things to conjure up a memory later. That's why if somebody throws a marshmallow at you, or somebody spills hot coffee down you, or you see a fight on a train, that's what you'll remember, because it causes you to react. So we start out life with very kind of gross reactions to things. We see something like this, looks a bit scary, we have this kind of overwhelming reaction, and gradually those reactions become more and more and more refined until we care about which clothes we wear. Everybody in this room, I guess, made a decision to wear a particular set of clothes. Why? Because we're social creatures. Instinctively, we care about what other creatures like us think about us. And over time, we learn, thank you, that extends even as far as our choice of clothing. So we refine those reactions. So the end of the story is, there really is no separation between thought and emotion. Thought is just a sophisticated kind of emotion. We are thoroughly emotional creatures. And that's the reason why you'll remember the marshmallows. You'll remember the really embarrassing incident that happened to you where somebody waved at you and thought it was somebody else, and then you didn't respond, and now you're embarrassed every time you see them. But you won't remember very much from school. So that's me done. Thank you.